Alright, welcome back to Autodesk Maya. In this tutorial we're going to explore the UV editor, basically, which allows you to properly map textures. So you can see my scene here. I have a sort of structure wall here with some crazy texture, a sphere, we have a cube, a cone, and a torus here, and each one basically has a material applied and it's reflected here in this render. This one here has a skin shader. This one has a default material. So what I want to do is explore how to correctly do your UVs from the render. I'm going to go and close out this render here. And I'm going to hit the 5 key just so we have shaded solid so it's a little easier to see, a little less distracting. And we're going to open up the UV editor. I have it my custom shelf. It's right here, this little checkerboard one. But it's under the window menu and you can go down to, let's see, modeling editors, there's the UV editor, and then click on that. Either one will work. Again, I have it in my custom shelf. I'm just going to click on this. And here we have an object in our scene. So if I click on any of these, you'll see how the UVs are sort of laid out. The UVs are basically 0 to 1 sort of ratio here in this grid, and the whole idea is you're unfolding the 3D form into a flattened space here. And this allows you to see it. So we can turn on and off any of the sort of images here just by clicking on these guys, and you can see UVs and then non-UVs. So just by turning it on and off there, a little visibility thing, just sort of shades the UVs so it makes it a little easier to see. But this one's been laid out really nice, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But typically you get one from these primitives that's laid out generically. The nerd sort of polygons here are flattened out. That one's really good. And this is what a cube looks like typically, which is like an unfolded box here flattened out. So let's actually create a new primitive here. And so I'm going to click on the cube here, and I'm going to bring it up into the stage, hit the F key to kind of frame in on it. And I actually want to make it, not just a cube. So I'm going to go to my channel box here, scroll down to the polygube input, and I'm going to change some measurements here. So for the width, maybe I'll have this, I don't know, 15 if this was feet going across, and a height of say maybe 9, and a depth of say maybe 1.5, kind of like a wall or a barrier or something. So it's pretty close, the same as the one I did before. But you'll look in the UV editor, it's still the same cube sort of layout. So that's not right. That's, in fact, if we apply a texture, it would look really weird. It'd be all stretched out and kind of wacky. So what do? How do you correct this? Well, you have to essentially create new UVs for this. So you can do that in the modeling tab here under the UV category here, and you go down to where it says create area right in here. And there's lots of different ways to go about this. You could create based on its a planar sort of structure, spherical, a cylinder, but typically with anything that's like cube-like, automatic's probably going to be your best bet. So I'm just going to go to the options here, click on the little square circle there, and you'll see here because it's set up to 6 planes for the best for mapping, we could change this to 4, but I'm going to leave it at 6, which is the default. You can go to edit and reset settings and see the defaults here. And basically I'm just going to click project. And now in here you'll see we have better proportional sort of UVs. They kind of make sense. Each one represents a side of this form, which, if we look at it, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is what it has, 6 sides here. Now, unfortunately, this is the bad part, is that I'm going to click on this top tool in the polygon shelf, the right one, which will allow me to select it, but you'll see each piece is separated. In fact, if I click on it and drag out, you'll see that they are not connected in any way. So what we want to do is essentially connect them, because if we line them up this way, the texture may jump or move or rotate or shift along these planes accordingly. And Maya is pretty smart. So if you go into edge mode by right clicking in here, go to edge mode, you can click on an edge and you'll see an edge that is basically right next to it, which means these two are connected. So that's the whole idea. You want to kind of merge those edges together. So I'm going to bring these two close together, and you can see those two edges selected there. And there's these new paint tools in Maya that make it so much easier right in this little area here. And this little guy right here is for sewing, basically stitching it together. So I'm going to click on it, and I get this little brush tool. And if I hold B and left click with the mouse, I can make it bigger or smaller. I don't want it to be too big, because if it was this big, it would kind of activate a bunch of edges here. So I'm going to again hold B and then left click to make it a little bit smaller. And what I'm going to do is just hover over this, and all I got to do is click and drag, and voila, that's sewed. So now I click out on this tool again, click. It looks like it's just one unit, but watch as I move this, the other one's attached, which is pretty cool. So let's click on this one and see what edge this has. So if I right click, go to edge mode, click, and look at that, they're lined up. So these edges should go together. So I'm going to go ahead and move them a little bit closer here. Again, click on the sew tool here. Again, hotkey is B to change the size, but my size is appropriate. So I'm going to go ahead and click and drag, and voila, I now have that. Now as I hovered over here, I noticed, hey, these two edges seem to be together, but let's make sure. Let's move this over a little bit, and then right click, go to edge mode, and click on edge, and voila, look at that. So I have a choice. I could connect this part to here, or this part to here. So which one do I do? Well, it's kind of tricky. It's like you kind of have to select the edge, and then in your viewfinder you can see if the edge is selected, or you can hover over here and kind of see what's going on here. So those edges are selected. So really we're talking about the bottom edges. So that's the bottom and that's the bottom. So really it doesn't really matter, except I probably would say if I'm going to show this in this view from this angle, and I was showing the front here, I'd probably want these two edges to be aligned. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So that means I have to grab this one, click on it, and then drag it over using the arrow keys till it comes over to here. And then again, right click, go to edge, click on the edge to make it active. So I can just bring it in closer there, and then grab that sew kit tool, go ahead and click, and voila. Now the last two, click on this tool again to click out. Click on, you can see here that we have an issue where these are the ends. So where do they line up? Well, right click, go to edge mode, click on an edge. You can see that edge goes to this. If I flip it, it goes to that one. So again, it just depends on which side you want. From my viewpoint, again, I would rather want this edge selected. So if I hover over it, it'll kind of tell me, this is the one I want to move. So what I'm going to do first is I have to kind of rotate this a little bit. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to move it over to here so I know which one I want to add. And you notice it would be kind of hard, kind of tricky to rotate, but we have this little device here. If you click on this little circle here, it'll rotate in perfect angles, which is really great, a 45 and a 90 degree. So now I can line it up exactly the way I want and just kind of bring it down there. It looks like it's not quite scaled the same. So I could hit R and scale it out just a tiny smidge, and then click on this tool again, escape out, and then right click, go to edge. It looks like those edges are pretty close. Now you have to be careful with this when you do the sewing action, because as you hover here, if you move over, notice I would sew those two edges together. I don't really want to do that. That would create some stretching along here. Same over here if I get too close to that. So what I'm going to do is make sure I'm clicking in here and just dragging across so I just sew that part there, which looks like I did a pretty good job. So next, I'm going to go ahead and click on this tool again, escape out, which is to move it, and this time I'm going to right click, go to edge, and if this one's selected, I pretty much want to have the other one selected also, and it looks like it's this edge here. So I'm going to zoom out here, hold option, left click. Basically the navigation in the UV editor is pretty much just like an ortho view in the 3D space. You can right click to zoom in and out, you can middle click. You just can't left click. Left click isn't going to do anything with option, so just understand that. So I'm going to drag this over here, and again I'm rotating, so I'm going to click, click, and then I can see those edges are highlighted. So I'm going to line it up. Again, I'm going to scale it up just a tiny bit, so I'm going to hit R and then grab the red cube just to scale it just a tiny smidgen, and then right click, go to edge, click on one of these edges, those are selected. Grab the little sew tool, again it's this guy here, and then I'm just going to try and click in here, and there we go. Now they did shift a little bit, so I can click on this guy, right click, go to edge, click on an edge, and then I can basically move it up or down. Now right now, that's right, I gotta select edge. There we go. Looks like it's causing some issues here. It wants to move the whole thing over a little bit. But let's see, go to edge. Let's try, there is an edge tool here. So sometimes, or is that a vertex? So I'm going to click on that vertex and then hold the shift key and click on that one and then hit W. Sometimes it's easier to just grab the vertexes, and then now I can bring it up. So when I click on that one, hold the shift key, click on that one. And this is a little bit too much, but I'm just kind of make sure it's all nice and even here. Again, click on this tool to escape out, which selects everything. Now, the main thing you want to do is you want to scale this up appropriately. So I'm going to hit R, which is the hotkey for scale tool, and click on this yellow cube and just drag out a tiny bit. Now, you might have it snap a little bit back and forth. So it is a little finicky. It's not perfect. So just understand that. But that looks pretty good. Now I can hit W and kind of just bring it just a tiny bit. But basically want to fit it inside that square as best as possible. And this looks really good. Now, we will explore other tools here in the future, but just realize, we've done a pretty good job of UVing that. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and apply the other material that I had before. We're going to get into the whole materials in another tutorial on how to do it, but I'm going to go ahead and click on the hypershade here and basically assign the same material, which is Lambert 2. And then we'll go ahead and do a quick render here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the render tab here and see it in action. So I'm going to pause while it's rendering here. Alright, so here's a complete render. As you can see, the textures seem to be seamless. They wrap around real nice. There's no real stretching issue. There is a little bit of sort of stretching across here. So if we had polygons going across here and here, divisions, it would probably be a little bit better. But since this is basically, if you're going to do this for a game, you wouldn't necessarily have to divide up so much divisions. You kind of want to make it as low geometry as possible, and this would be perfect for that. So that's the basic overview of the UV editor. We will get through some of these other tools in the future, but this is basically working with the automatic feature in the UV, and then basically clicking on this tool here, which is the move, the UV, and then of course the sew tool. Until next time, I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. See you soon in Autodesk Maya. Cheers!